Okay, so this is part 2 to the new moon for May, the new moon of Gemini. I wanted to break down some of the other energies that I didn't have time to talk about, okay? Mainly, we always want to know what the hell is Uranus up to, okay? Uranus, along with Mars, right? These are big deals. They're very powerful. They can be quite unpredictable because Mars likes to move fast, right? Uranus has some similar traits as Mars. Uranus is, one of the keywords for Uranus is the awakener, right? Shocks and surprises. Someone who is who thinks outside of the box, but they think outside of the box in very unique ways that almost seem otherworldly, because the downloads, it's electrical information, right? It's literally downloads coming through. And they come lightning fast, right? It's like you're touching them with the mind of God. And so Uranus at 8 degrees, sextiling Mars at 6 degrees in Pisces. Okay, so remember, Mars, when we think about what does it do other than representing our body, it is action, all right? It's physical. It wants to get involved. It's the soldier. People who like to be the first one to do something. So another way of looking at it is I want to be the leader, right? A leader with my dreams, right? That's why some people look at this setup of Mars being in Pisces energy and they call it like spiritual activity. Well, it's sextiling Uranian energy. There's like this interesting communication happening. Mars being in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus. Sextile meaning beneficial, 60 degrees away from each other. So what kind of a conversation are they having? Mars is operating at a high level, spiritual activity, and you're in Taurus energy, right? Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, okay? Think about this, the people, group activity, right? But something unique, all right? Something that is for the best, very altruistic, something's for the best for all involved, but something that I can still be an individual within the group, at the same time connecting with divine communication. Venus rules Taurus energy. Venus is what I love, okay? Venus is what I love, who I love, how I love. Taurus is down to earth, right? Connecting with the earth. Things being comfortable and peaceful. Always looks like it's standing still and doing nothing until it gets angrier or sees something like the bullseye that it must charge for and go after. Uranus is all about being unique, but at the same time, when it mixes with this Taurian energy, Uranus can be quite impulsive, because if it's in the sign of Taurus, this would be impulsive love, right? You wouldn't want to really hook up with someone unless you were looking literally just for a hookup. This isn't typically a lasting energy type of relationship, because this is love, and if you happen to have this like in your 7th house or something, right, or your 5th house, this would be okay. Very unique hookups, right? This would be, Taurus energy, though, is committed, tends to be loyal, but at the same time, it takes this spin of, I like new, I like exciting, I like different. Well, what happens when new and exciting and different wears off, right? What happens? All of a sudden, depending upon, the way in which you love, you'd want to find your natal Venus in your chart to understand how you love. How mature is your Venus? Because this would also be a factor as to how she would act in this energy, relating with Uranus. But we want to know what's happening here, right? What's happening with Mars in Pisces at this time? When we think of this as group activity, okay, and we think of this as spiritual action. Some people consider like yoga a spiritual thing, Tai Chi, or, any sort of a modality that you use that you feel helps you to physically connect to source, right? To physically surrender. Sometimes that's like, wow, does that even make sense? But in a way it does, right? What's a physical surrender? Like a meditation, right? That's a way where we're taking our body and we're deciding, okay, I'm just going to focus on my body and my breath and the stillness of it all, and just kind of sit here and see if I can hear, see if there's something that comes in, right? And so connections, right? This is a beneficial connection, and having a love for something like that. This could be really wonderful. Remember, this is internet. So this could be the assistance and the help of things like, global meditations, right? And this makes me think of myself, within the last couple of months, starting up the meditations or the ceremonies that I call them, full moon ceremony, new moon ceremony, and beginning those things. The support that we get, this may seem kind of crazy, but it's Uranus energy in Taurus, squaring Saturn, right? Saturn's in Aquarian energy. Yeah, I've got a kitty cat in the room. So Uranus, very unique, okay, but wants something new, something that it can love and understanding and kind of feeling like something new is something I love. It's adventurous, right? Being very appealing in that way. And group energy here, right, and group energy here, because this sign's ruler is over here. So even though this is a square, there is a sense of understanding of we can do this, we can connect and communicate and make a commitment for our long term, because that's what Saturn is. And this is our love for the earth, right? In unique ways. So again, another aspect that is, even though it's a square, it's funny because a person not too long ago asked me a question, and it's a good point, how there are certain things you can see in a chart that are called squares and certain things that are called trines. And a trine is supposed to set up an ease, right? Make something better. And a square is supposed to be making something hard. But in some time, you have to look at the details. You have to look at what's the planet and what sign is it in and what is the relationship it's having, right? What kind of a conversation. And so when you understand this, the planet and the sign, the planet and the sign, and then you see how they could possibly talk. If they were sitting at a table, like four individuals at a table, would they have anything to talk about, right? Well, I think that Saturn setting rules and structures within groups, and this being about unique, group energy, outside of the box benefits for humanity, advancements for humanity, and Uranus being in Taurus, which Uranus represents the same thing as Aquarius. I realize it takes on more of a down to earth, more of a peaceful thing, more of a, I like my comforts and I don't want to change. Again, this is fixed energy and so is this. So what I'm saying is, even though it's a square, there in some odd way, there are commonalities among these that I see. Because Saturn represents Capricorn, and this is earth energy. Taurus, earth energy, right? Uranus, air, people, fixed. Aquarius, air, people, fixed, groups, structures, rules, authority people of authority, because Saturn is considered it's one of its ancient rulers. Saturn's also one of the ancient rulers here, right? So they're even though it's a square, they can learn, if they can have patience, which they both have in common. Taurus is all about being methodical, building something over time. So is Saturn. So you see, there's more commonalities we're finding here. Even though there's a square and it's tension and it's stress, it means that if you go slow, okay, you're going to find out that there are these little diamonds in the rough. At the first glance, you couldn't see the good. But if you slow down, you're going to find some things that you have in common that you didn't readily see at the get-go. So where's Aquarian energy in your chart? Where's Taurus in your chart? Okay? Because this square between Saturn and Uranus, it's going to be happening for a while. Okay? Here it's at 6 degrees. End of June, Saturn's going to be here. It's going to be in Capricorn energy. And Uranus, will be like at 10 degrees Taurus. So they really won't even be aspecting at that point. Uranus does go retrograde. Let's keep this in mind. The Uranus retrograde begins not until the end of the summer. Once the end of the summer comes around, we're looking at the 15th of August. Uranus will then be at 10:41, so roughly 11 degrees, and will begin its retrograde. And at that time, Saturn, at its retrograde, still retrograding, is at 26 degrees. Okay? So they're not even aspecting at that point. So we will definitely not be in that square thing anymore. All right? And so what we can understand is that when these widen, when the tension and the frustration with groups and people and values within groups and people, when these lessen, you can expect the rules to lighten up and to change at that time. At that point in August, we realize, oh my gosh, the rules are going to be very relaxed. At least this is what this is showing, because it's saying my values, what I love, what I desire, and I won't back down, because this is the sign of the rebel. And this is, I am the rule maker, right? With the people, their orb, their point of being in a square is going to be at its widest. So we can expect the rules to be most relaxed at that time, just based on these two, okay? And Saturn is the rule maker, but we do know that Saturn will then begin its trek forward again, and we'll get back to 29 degrees Capricorn. And when it gets back to 29 degrees Capricorn, that's when you're going to want to be like, okay, interesting. So yeah, Saturn, when we talk about the butt end of November, I'm looking at the ephemeris. Saturn gets to 29 degrees Capricorn in the beginning. She gets at 28 degrees Capricorn in November, at the end of November. But there's another interesting thing that happens in that month too. And I'll do another video at the time to talk a little bit more deeper about it. And that is Jupiter and Saturn getting close again. We'll have Jupiter and Saturn both going forward. They're going to be getting quite tight, actually. And then that tightness is going to increase through December. And we will see that actually like December 20th. December 20th. Jupiter and Saturn are literally holding hands December 20th. They're tight the whole way, though. All of December, they're like a degree apart. But then once we come to the 20th, we've got them both at 0 degrees Aquarius energy. So keep in mind, whenever we get to 29 degrees, this is a time, anytime 29 degrees of any sign, especially a cardinal sign, this is a point where the energy becomes most intense, more extreme. It's considered a critical degree. And so Saturn first hits that critical degree mark on December 7th. But to get back to the present day, all right, the present day of the month of May 2020, you see that you have the sun and the moon, okay? They're squares it's 4 degrees apart. And we talked about this earlier, that by the 27th, the sun is going to be squaring Mars exactly. What does that mean, all right? The sun in Gemini energy is talking, thinking, communicating. The way I speak. Now, this is going to be social media. This isn't the internet, definitely. Back in the day before this, it would have been, the newspapers, right? Periodicals and such. Because it was the only way that we had to communicate. We had to wait forever for news. Now it's at a touch of a button, right? We have instant information, Gemini. Instant, constant thinking, talking, communicating. Now, when it squares tightly with Mars, Mars being in Pisces. Now, remember, Mars is taking on a little bit more of it's not as fast moving. Mars is a little bit slower, and it's squaring information, squaring communication. Because it's in Pisces, it's a little delusional. Mars's eyes are covered. All right, it's action that is not seeing clearly, and it's very slow, could even be feeling sickly. All right, what is the sun and Mars? What are they doing? Mars can be a bit abrasive, but because Mars has these waters of murkiness, it's slowing Mars abrasiveness down a little bit. But because because Pisces represents behind the scenes activity, we could be experiencing, so we want to be aware of that. There's a time where there's this great love and desire for information and knowledge and technology, because Mercury and Venus are so close to each other. So there's almost this over-infatuation with information, which means I get information, and before I even seeing if it's valid, right? Before I'm even checking the source on it, I'm immediately sharing it. I want to be the first one out with the information. This is something we're all going to want to be aware of. We already know that it's taking place now. We can see it. You see where it's happening, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that so-and-so believes this. I can't believe that so-and-so doesn't believe this. Or I can't believe, it's because there's so many little bits of information out there, and it's like, what's true? What's not true? This is a constant state of emerging stories. This is a constant state of a flow of information, constantly occurring, constantly happening, constantly coming. And it's a matter of, our ability to discern and having the awareness that what we thought was true could very likely not be true, and vice versa. This is Gemini, being mutable and flexible. Learning to understand, okay, I have this piece of information in front of me. The only way to tell if it's true is you have to wait. You have to use the test of Saturn, the test of time. Okay, remember, Saturn rules time. You got to see if it's true. So you got to kind of wait things out. But also just be like, I'm taking it day by day, because that's all you can do, right? I know, right? I hear that song. Remember that old school song? And it makes you wonder, like, okay, are things going to be this unstable, that we have to stay this mutable in our thinking? And yeah, that's what this is showing, a constant state of flux and changing. Changing in the way we think and the way we communicate, okay? The way we talk, the way we speak, especially in social media, the way we're, before we hit that send button. What's happening with Chiron? This is our cardinal energy. Chiron's at a low degree. It's 824, doesn't move particularly fast. So we know that squares would be other cardinal energies. Or opposition, right? These are the big deal energies, right? Oppositions, conjunctions, right? Like Venus and Mercury are conjunct here because they're on top of each other, so they're conjunct. We don't see anything in the low degree of Chiron, transiting, nothing here, and there's nothing here. This isn't going to be like this for long. This is why I did this video, to show you that because Mercury moves fast, it's very shortly going to be in Cancer energy, okay? When I look at my handy dandy ephemeris, and I look at the planet Mercury, by the end of May, Mercury's going to be conjunct the North Node, folks, okay? So what does that mean? Remember, Mercury's information, all right? North Node is where we're headed. We're going to want to know what's going on at that time. Okay, so let me look up the date for that. Let me see exactly when does Mercury get to there. We're going to give it a 2-degree orb. So if I'm saying 29, I'm going to look at my ephemeris for 27 degrees, and that's on the 27th of May. All right, so let's go there, right? We're going to use the same chart. We're just going to go back a little bit because we're going to do the transits now. So I'm going to keep the current new moon chart. This will also help you to understand how to better navigate this website by me doing this. Over here is where I'm going to punch in the next date that I want to look at. It's showing you today's date, which I did not punch in. I didn't even touch it. It just automatically does that for the day that you're viewing the chart, because I already had a birth date in there. So I said the 27th, okay? And I don't need to do anything else. I know on that page there was a whole bunch of other stuff, like, you could have a partner, right, or a spouse. And that's if you were doing like a synastry chart, or if you wanted to look at like your birth chart and your child's birth chart together, like how you guys communicate. To be honest, I find those charts can be complicated, so I don't advise that for anybody who's brand new. Not saying you can't do it, I just don't advise it, because just mastering all this is a lot. The new moon energy, and now I'm going to hit with transits, because we're going to look at the difference of where things were during the new moon, which is all the black planets, the inner ring, and then we're going to see how things moved by the end of the month, around the 27th of May. So on the 27th of May, I've got Mercury pulling up closely to the transiting North Node. All right? We want to know what's Mercury going to be doing. Who's going to be having a conversation with Mercury once it's moved to that 29-degree mark? Well, let's first look for the square. So we know a square is 30 degrees away. So 30, 60, 90, right? There's nothing in Pisces, okay? Because that's what the square would be. And then we'll go 30 degrees this way, 30, 60, 90, nothing over there in Virgo. Great. Let's see if there's anything trining. Trining is 120 degrees, okay? So 30, 60, 90, 120. Each sign represents 30 degrees, so yes, we were counting by 30. So we look over here, transiting, nothing at 29 degrees, okay? Let's go the other way. 30, 60, 90, 120. We don't see anything transiting, but we have to, at least I do, I see that Spica is here. Spica is not at 29 degrees. Spica is a fixed star. Spica is at 24 degrees. I know that might be hard to see. I like to pay attention to the fixed stars. I've noticed many times in my own chart, events happened in my life and I couldn't figure out, like I couldn't see it astrologically on paper. And I'm like, okay, apparently astrology sucks, doesn't work. Lo and behold, when I learned about the fixed stars and I started printing them up on my chart, I would see, oh shit, there was a fixed star at a certain point, and that contributed either to the square or to the trine, or whatever it was. So I always pay attention, and this is at 24. So what does that mean? That means that Mercury will be receiving a beneficial trine from Spica in Libra. And what's Libra's ruler? Venus. What I value. It's going to pertain to relationships, right? Really good communication, because this is about relationships. Relationships with peers, siblings, co-workers, okay, neighbors, people in my community, people in my immediate environment. So Mercury's going to be getting some information days before it becomes conjunct the North Node, and that's beneficial. Okay, now you want to go ahead and look on your own birth chart. Do you have something here in Aquarius at 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 degrees? Because it would be part of that Mercury and Spica trine, okay? And so why do we need to know that? Because it's just a way of using the frequencies that are available, using the power, using the knowledge, and realizing this is supposed to help me in some way. It's a benefit. It's air, so it's information. These are all the air signs, all right? It's information. Mercury rules air. Mercury's operating really good at this time, all right? It's operating really good if it's getting information from another like energy. The information that it gets is going to be super beneficial. So when Mercury hooks up with the node, and this says what you're going to be facing for the next 18 months, pay attention, because that's what the node's going to be telling you, what your next 18 months will be looking like. Now, does that mean it's going to be all good? No, there are going to be stresses and tests, of course. And so we go ahead and we go 90 degrees, right? We look for what's going to be squaring Mercury by 90. And we already saw that natally, nothing. We did face already the 20 degrees Neptune, right? We saw that square. But when we talk about the node and if there's anything there, right, you want to see, do you have something in Pisces at the later degrees? Pisces or Virgo at the later degrees. That would set up a square, okay? Now, does that mean this is the same horrible stuff, like this testing and this stress is what you're going to be facing for the future? It's an indicator, okay? The node is going to keep going this way, all right? But eventually, folks, even though the node goes slow, you know, astrology is an evolutionary project. It is a marathon. Because that North Node will one day get to whatever planet was over here that was squaring the North Node when it was over there. You see? And vice versa. If you had a planet over here that was squaring the node in Mercury, that North Node is going to one day get to over here and then be opposing that North Node. Okay? 18 months, roughly, to get through a sign. So this isn't far-fetched, right? When we talk about Pluto, and we know that Pluto is going to take 4 more years to get through Capricorn energy. And when we think about 18 months and where will the North Node be in 18 months. Where will the North Node be in 4 years' time? I mean, I can do a quick jump ahead real quickly here and take a peek at that and see. And I do this all the time. I do all these jumps and I take these peeks. So when the North Node, 18-month, you know, that's 2.5 years, right? By the time the North Node gets into the Arian energy, it's 2024. It's just it's halfway through Aries in 2024, in the beginning of 2024, okay? And Pluto has just entered Aquarius energy. Fascinating, because Arian energy is myself. Aquarius energy is the group. But who am I within the group? The North Node will be sextiling. The North Node will be working with us and our ability as individuals, right? We'll be going through our phase of individuation, receiving our own personal private downloads, and understanding better how we can contribute to the group, to humanity. Fascinating stuff. So getting back to the May energy and seeing that we'll have Mercury lining up with the North Node, and that there won't be any major squares right? There won't be any trines. None of that will be happening at that time. And Mars, when we look to see where Mars is, we see that Mars and Sirius are together. They're conjunct. Remember, Mars is movement. Sirius is our grains and our foods. So you would want to know if this squares anything in your chart or if it trines something. So you would need to know, where your other mutable energies are to understand the square. Your Gemini or your Sagittarius energy, or the oppositions, all right, to see what Mars does. Because again, Mars going through Pisces, Mars is your body. So I want, that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to do a part 2 to this, so that if you didn't hear the first time, find out if you have anything in Gemini and if you have anything in Sagittarius energy, because Mars will be squaring, okay? See, do you have your sun in either Sag or Gemini, okay? Is your rising sign, or is your midheaven, or your IC, right? Is either one of those in either Gemini or Sagittarius? And Mars is not really super slow. So it's not like a death sentence type thing. It's not what this represents. It's going to be a definite time of testing activity, that's for certain. All right, Venus, she's going through her retrogrades, 19 degrees. All right, Uranus hasn't moved much, right? Chiron hasn't moved much. Neptune hasn't moved much. Even Mars hasn't moved much. Saturn hasn't moved. So at the end of the month, everything is like, these guys are still retrograding, but Saturn is still at, Saturn is still at like 157 because it moves so slow. So by the end of the month, not a whole lot has even changed. The sun, of course, has moved, right? From being at 2 degrees, it's moved along now and it's at 7 degrees. And remember, we know that means the sun at this point at 7 degrees is now still squaring tightly Mars energy. You want to wait till the sun gets to like a day or two later from this. 28th, 29th is when you'll feel this easing up. It won't be squaring the body anymore because remember, this is the body. But typically when the Mars and the sun square, Mars sends its energy to the sun. It lights up the sun, and the sun sends its energy to Mars. So this is, in a way, even though it's a square, it may add benefit. I know it's a square, but the sun still lights up the body. It will still send its energy to the body. So that will help this time of squaring, because they're lined up tightly, will actually help this Mars at 6 and 7 degrees. It's when the sun starts pulling away because it goes fast, right? When we get out of May, right? When we get out of May and we're into June and the sun is no longer aspecting Mars and Mars is still in Piscean energy and Mars gets closer to Neptune. When Mars gets closer to Neptune, this will be a problem. This is when we're going to definitely hear about more deaths because, well, Mars is weakened in Pisces, and then as it gets closer to Neptune, it becomes even weaker, and it's squaring the Gemini energy, okay? So just energetically, just looking at this logically on paper, we can rationally break this down and say, I could see how if I heard about an escalation in deaths at this time due to the virus, right, the pandemic, right? This is what the Neptune is. And Mars is infections, by the way, and cuts and bruises and inflammation. I would definitely see a rise in those numbers, and I would almost expect to see a rise in those numbers. This is not to say that everyone's, you have no free will. You do. Look at your own personal chart. If you don't know, comment your stuff below. I can help you figure this out. Or I can simply just answer a question for you without, telling you, hey, you need to look at your chart, because you may not be in it. You may not be into this at that level. And that's so fine. It takes a long time to get, yeah, wherever you're at, I'll meet you there. Not a problem. So you're going to want to know, when is Mars getting close to this Neptune energy? All right, I've got an ephemeris in front of me. I'm going to look this up really quick while we're talking. Doesn't take long, folks. Okay, the first eclipse happens June 5th at 15 degrees Sag. Now, what you're going to need to know is, where is Mars at the eclipse? All right, June 5th, Mars is then moved on to 15 degrees Pisces. This is interesting. All right, very interesting. because I said that the eclipse happens at 15 degrees Sag, which means the eclipse point is being squared by Mars at 15 degrees Pisces. And not only is that squaring the eclipse point, but Mars is going to be 5 degrees away from Neptune at that point in time. So the month of June, as you know, as Mars gets closer, right, to Neptune, if I move up to, let me see, Neptune at 21 degrees. Neptune doesn't go retrograde until 3/4 of the way through June. Neptune gets to almost 21 degrees. And at 21 degrees, we want to look at Mars at 19, okay? And so Mars first hits 19 degrees on the 11th of June, okay? It's 2 degrees away. And so as Mars gets 2 degrees away, I would not be surprised. I would be surprised if I didn't hear about more deaths at that time, greater numbers. And see if you have something at 20 degrees Gemini, okay? By then, okay, Mercury will have moved on and it's already in the sign of Cancer. It's in the sign of Cancer at 12 degrees. Interesting as hell. Because 12 degrees, you see that? I have Sirius right there. Sirius is a fixed star. It's a divine feminine mother energy. Mercury's going to be there. Really fascinating. It's that mother instinct. It's that, you know, when we think of the energy of the divine mother, some people would say Mother Mary. It depends on what culture, what your religious beliefs are. You know, everyone seems to have like this divine feminine energy, right? Mercury will be there. This is water. That's a trine. Is that on the day of the eclipse? No, the day of the eclipse on the 5th, Mercury's at 8 degrees. But when we get to the 11th, Mercury's at 12/13 degrees, and Mars will be sitting right next to Neptune. So in other words, this at 13, this at 19, that's a 6 degrees difference. This would be very beneficial for a person who's concerned about whether they're going to be affected, okay? Because having Mercury there can be really beneficial in your natal chart. It could help you. This transiting Mercury on top of this could help you during this time. Remember, folks, Neptune is have faith, to surrender, to go within, to turn off all of this. You see this? All the stuff in May? If there was ever a time when we even have a greater desire for information, this is going to be information overload, people, okay? This is going to be information overload. There is no greater message than to go within and to listen to what your higher, where your voice of silence is, where your higher self is. Listen to your people. Listen to your personal private crew that exists within you. Because there's going to be a lot of confusion with that new moon and this Neptune blending and merging and making things murky. And then days later, we have Mercury sitting there. And then a week later, we have an eclipse here that's squared by Mars in Pisces. So this was just a precursor, so to speak, for the June eclipse video, which I will do a separate video for that, showing you where the rest of the planets are during the eclipse and how to be prepared. But to look in your own charts, you know, when you follow Mars between 15 and 22 degrees of Pisces, see if you have anything at 15 to 22 degrees Gemini in your natal chart, or if you have anything at 15 to 22 degrees in Sagittarius in your natal chart. All right? Do me a favor and comment below if you have any questions, or if you don't have an answer to that and you don't even know where to begin, comment your digits below, okay? Seeing if you have something at the opposing end, 2 of those degrees, would be beneficial. But I would really prefer to have your birth numbers, because I feel better to give an answer after I've looked at all of the energy, all right? And it can be a simple reply and a comment for you, all right, to just help you to feel more at ease, or to help you to better understand whether you need to prepare, or, and you know, what logically, rationally, does it look like, what kind of waters you will be asking yourself to navigate during that time. So folks, I hope that this has answered questions, and I have no doubt that it brought up more questions. And again, as always, comment below and I will get back to you. Stay calm, stay safe, peace.